Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the 23rd World Education Summit School Education. And we are now starting off with our panel discussions for the day one. And the first panel discussion is on future of school education in India, challenges and best practices. And as a panelist, we have Dr. Chandrakanta R. Pathak. She's the principal and CEO of HVB Global Academy. Welcome, ma'am. She's also the moderator for the session. We have with us Mr. Roshan Gandhi, Chief Executive Officer, City Montessori School, Lucknow. Welcome, Mr. Gandhi. We have Dr. Usha Reddy, CEO, Meridian Group of Schools, Hyderabad, Telangana. Welcome, Dr. Reddy. And we have Ms. Meghana Musunuri, Founder and Chairman, Fountainhead Global School, Hyderabad, Telangana. Welcome, ma'am. So over to Dr. Chandrakanta R. Pathak now to start off with the panel discussion. So I hand over the baton now to Dr. Chandrakanta R. Pathak to start off with the session now.
Good morning to everyone, and thank you, Elite Technomedia, once again for giving us such a wonderful platform. Uh, Topic itself says volume that future of school education in India, challenges and best practices. Let me welcome and thank each of my panelists. We all are aware that over the last 2 years, we have witnessed a rapid overhauling and transformation in education, not only in India, across the globe. And it's driven primarily by unparalleled challenges which were posed by the pandemic on the operation of schools and other educational institutes. Schools were shuttered for 2 years roughly. Thank by the grace of God, we are getting back to normalcy, and we have to move from physical to the virtual platform. Now, during this time, we also witnessed, if we see the positive side of it, an incredible phenomena that teachers from various institutions from across the country collaborate in creation and adoption of various digital infrastructures in a very short span of time to support nobody else, our own students, and online education effectively. This required teachers to learn and implement new technologies that they were not even aware of before. Why should I say teachers? I admit it myself that I have learned number of things in past 2 years. And this was a remarkable feat indeed. These infrastructures are now beginning to emerge as a viable solution to the long standing problem of access to quality infrastructure and instructions in India. These platforms are rapidly evolving into what many are referring to as virtual classrooms, equipped with all necessary paraphernalia required to implement the methods of modern pedagogy. It would not be a stretch to say here that our experience and learning from the use of digital applications have enabled us to envisage new possibilities in education and thereby shape the future of school education in India. In today's discourse, we will explore the nature of ongoing digital revolution we are witnessing and try to develop a better understanding of how it might shape the future of teaching and learning in India. I just wish to confirm once again that we have Mr. Anirudh Gupta with us, Ms. Rekrit, then we have Ms. Roshan Gandhi and Dr. Usha Reddy and Meghana Mansuri. Am I correct? So let me begin with first question with Mr. Anirudh Gupta. Sir, over the last 2 years, we have witnessed adoption and integration of digital technologies in education at an incredible pace. It has been nothing short of revolution. We see a glimpse of this revolution in tools of remote learning that have become ubiquitous now. In your view, what are some of the key advances brought about by the use of digital technologies in the teaching learning space over the last few years? Mr. Anirudh Gupta, please. Sir, are you there? I believe we have some issues with Mr. Anirudh Gupta, maybe technology. So, may I go to my next panelist? Do we have Ms. Rikriti here?
No, ma'am, I'll just confirm you the people who are here. You are there, and we have Mr. Roshan Gandhi, we have Dr. Usha Reddy, and we have Miss Meghana Musunuri. So you can put across your questions to either Dr. Reddy or Miss
Only.
Meghana or to Mr. Gandhi. Yes, ma'am.
Only three of them are there instead of five,
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Mr.
Okay.
Gupta and Mr. Rikirit Sirai are not here.
All right. So let me go to Ms. Roshan Gandhi first. Now, do you think, what do you think, Ms. Gandhi? Where do we go from here and what does the future have in store for us? Is a question that occupies all of our minds. But alas, we don't have a crystal ball and there is no way for us to take a peek into the future. So, the best we can do is make educated guesses. Now, in regards to education, do you think hybrid learning is the future of education? Will it help enhance learning experience? And how might it impact access to education in remote areas of the country? You can take little extra time. Therefore, I have posed in one three questions to you. So let's begin with.
Sure, sure. Well, thank you very much for having me. Thank you to Elets and to moderator ma'am. Um, it's a very big question. Is hybrid learning the future? And whosoever has the correct answer to that question will become a billionaire overnight. But I think the point is that nobody has that answer yet. It's an evolving situation. And I think, what's interesting is that a lot of educators and schools um, are undergoing a period of experimentation. In the past couple of years, we've been in and out and in and out of physical schooling, and we've learned a huge amount about what works online, what doesn't work online, what's better online, what's better face to face, what are the barriers to online education. And I think building on that learning, it is possible to develop a sort of system through which hybrid learning can be utilized effectively. I think everyone, the vast majority of educators have agreed that howsoever good the online learning is, even if everything is perfect, the internet connection is perfect, the kids have devices, supposing everything is perfect, even then there's going to be something missing. And if you're not having face-to-face education, if you're not having children physically there as part of a community, developing socio-emotional bonds with their peers and their teachers, and having those face-to-face interactions. So, but at the same time, a good online class can be a really effective way of delivering content, and it can actually facilitate certain teaching techniques which are not possible in the classroom. For example, a brief formative assessment, like a check for understanding in the middle of the class or at the end of the class, is actually easier online because you can do a quick Mentimeter, or just have a 3-minute task in which kids fill up something in a chat box or whatever. You can gauge your class's learning faster. You can have a quick quiz, and the data from that quiz will come to you instantly, and you don't have to mark it or do the correction of that. So there are some advantages to the teaching and learning process from online learning. So if we move to a hybrid system, the question is, how can we harness those advantages of online learning while also harnessing the advantages of offline learning. So the other thing is that there is a movement towards education which is less based on rote learning, which is more based on skills-based learning. And we talk about the 4C skills like critical thinking, creativity, communication, collaboration. So those sorts of that sort of skill development requires face-to-face work, and face-to-face classroom pedagogy, which is of a different nature to the traditional learning. Right? For example, peer work, group work, project work, experiential learning. All of these things can take place only physically, and that best happens in the classroom. At the same time, there will always be a need for some level of traditional chalk and talk, for some time that the teacher spends just delivering, content, helping the children understand the basics of a new topic. So a hybrid system could look like having chalk and talk type classes online, because that can easily be done online, and then having activity based classes offline. So that way you can utilize the best of the offline world and the best of the online world. So it's an exciting frontier for experimentation and finding out. No one has the final answer of exactly what it should look like, and I think different schools will experiment in different ways. To the last part of your question regarding the helping in the rural areas, yes, I think hybrid learning can be an effective way to help. The reason being simply that, unfortunately, yes, in schools like those that are represented in forums like Elets, relatively, private schools, higher fee paying private schools, we are able to attract great teachers, we're able to train great teachers, and so we have, strong teachers who we can rely on as the front and center of the classroom. If you go out into the rural areas, much lower fee schools or government schools, then of course, unfortunately, the teacher quality is not necessarily up to the mark, nor do they have the capacity to provide that kind of teacher training. So it can improve, hybrid learning can improve quality by sort of facilitating teachers who don't have that training and experience to deliver better lessons. For example, if they're delivering an online lesson, that lesson could be a scripted lesson, could have certain cues in an online platform that directs the teacher to deliver a high quality lesson, which they may be otherwise not capable of delivering because they lack that training and experience. Similarly, there are certain tools like video content, video lessons. These things can be delivered online, to give the content to the students, and then the rest of the learning can take place face to face through peer group and other sort of activity based lessons. So in this way, we can definitely help in the rural sector through hybrid learning.
Thank you, Mr. Gandhi, for sharing your views. I believe, if not completely, hybrid learning is going to stay with all of us. It will definitely enhance our learning experience, and 99.99% will agree that yes, it will be helpful in the remote areas because it gives us the opportunity to collaborate. The teachers, as you said, maybe some of your school teachers can definitely take care of the schools in the remote areas, and that is how we can enhance the quality of the education. uh, I would, I will move to my next panelist, Dr. Usha Reddy. Schools and educational institutes have been trying to make significant structural and management changes to integrate digital applications and tools of remote learning into their infrastructure for teaching learning. Private enterprises known as EdTech have played a decisive role in shaping the remote learning technologies that we have become so reliant on. What are some of the important challenges that schools and ad tech companies continue to face as we work to further enhance teaching learning using digital tools of remote learning? Dr. Reddy, please.
Thank you so much. And, my greetings to all the other panelists. I think this is a very imposing question, according to me, because what was at one point in time not in set in school environments, today it's become very acceptable. For example, earlier also, many of the schools did use technology and they used it wisely. So it's not as if schools did not have, content that was delivered in the classrooms that the teachers would use either to motivate or to initiate the class or to explain a particular lesson. Technology was also used in other ways, and I would get to what we all know as the flipped classroom modules. So when there is a flipped classroom modules, that is actually remote learning from home. So you identify a particular link or a video and pass it on to your children to review at home. So I think most of the learning becomes self-learning, and then they come back to the class for an activity based on that learning. The teacher can definitely clarify doubts and take it to the next level. So, in this sense, things were going on. But when it came to every single child, now having to have a gadget at home to actually get on with online classes did pose some challenges initially. For example, the number of laptops at home, when both the parents are also working from home and every kid needed one, was definitely, a tall ask, and many of them did not have it. Even if you look at, okay, if you have two kids, you can pass on your cell phones to them, especially if they're the younger ones, they may not have had their own cell phones. So parents initially did face, a few challenges when it came to adapting to the online mode. However, today it's become part and parcel of life. Like I always say, the world moves on and we always learn from past experiences, but we cannot get back to where, we began. So I feel hybrid is the way to go forward. Flipped classrooms are a way to go forward. And as Mr. Gandhi said, there are multiple ways in which you can do some quick assessments for the understanding of the child and get on to some remediation. So these are pros and cons. Technology has always assisted schools in also not just collecting data, not about just school management systems, but also the performance of children. But I think what we need technology in schools is to get it more personalized, where you can actually have great student portfolios also there, which we are in the process of implementing. So when a child joins you in LKG and leaves you in 12th grade, there's an entire compilation which can read not just the marks or his achievements or his certificates, but also see how the child has evolved socially and emotionally. And I think that is wonderful. If you can get into those aspects, which are nuances of how you can use this technology, I think that would be fantastic. I also do believe that many of us who use technology have to learn how to use, AI to, the data can always be thrown up, but how through AI can you find some results, act upon it for school improvement is an area that all of us should focus upon. Now, coming to how this will impact our remote schools, which are a challenge definitely for the government, and it is our responsibility as private schools to also do our bit for them. And I can tell you that they have multiple challenges. There are villages that don't even have electricity, forget internet. So I think even in the NEP, what they have jotted down is to first see that villages are electrified. We're still in that era where we're forcing on what we call as basic amenities required for humanity. Once that is done, then we can talk of internet, then we can talk of gadgets, and then we move on to how can they learn more effectively. However, there are many villages now that the government getting in, through the cable, and most of the villages, they do have, televisions. So disseminating, good modules pertaining to different topics of different age groups through Swayam Prabha in almost 32 channels in various languages, I think is a phenomenal effort put by the government. So in that sense, I hope you will agree with me that there has been a lot of work, but we still have miles and miles to go. And I think collectively, I think all of us should do some hand holding for these schools which are less fortunate, and make sure that they're at par with us. We, for one, at Meridian, have adopted 15 government schools for almost 2 decades. I know where we began and where we are now. And I think the smile that we have on our faces is because we have helped these kids to bridge the urban rural divide way before. The NEP is now talking of bridging the urban rural divide and the educational gaps. And I'm proud that many of these children, have finished their engineering and, placed very well. So I know where there's a will, there's a way. And I think few of us educationists should look beyond the four walls of our compound and see what we can do to contribute to the society. I hope I've answered your question.
Very well, very well.
Yeah.
So the outcome is, and nobody can deny that the time has come where public and private agencies have to work hand in hand if we really want to progress further. I move to my next panelist, Ms. Meghana. In your view, what more could be done to better enable schools and educational institutions to collaborate and work together with this emerging edtech industry to meet the needs of future education more effectively? Ms. Meghana, please. Do I have Ms. Meghana, or is there any technical issue? I believe
Hi
she's
everyone.
with us. I'm sorry, I believe you got disconnected for a time being.
Yes,
Should
please.
I repeat my question, Ms. Meghana?
Yes, please. That would be really useful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My question to you was, as Dr. Reddy very correctly said, that yes, the time has arrived to get the best public and private agencies. All of us have to work together to get the better education for our little ones. So my question to you is now, in your view, what more could be done to better enable schools and educational institutions to collaborate and work together with this emerging edtech industry to meet the needs of the future education more effectively and efficiently?
Yeah. Thank you so much for the question and thanks for repeating it. I'm sorry that I had a technical glitch that I had to actually figure it out.
After all, technology. So let's not say sorry. It's we people are trying whatever best you all can.
Yeah. So, so as ma'am rightly said, Dr. Usha Reddy, that, we need to have collaborations. So to start with, I would suggest, there should be a blueprint of what this collaboration would be like, if it is with the private sector or if it is with the public sector. So who's going to do what? Because, clarity is what, sometimes is missing in during these collaborations. So people expect that there is everything will fall into place with the collaboration. So if we have to make sure that the system is working effectively, so we need to have a blueprint and know how what is this collaboration going to bring in onto the table when we are actually collaborating it with different entities here. And I strongly believe that anything can be more effective when we move from static to dynamic, right? Because as previously we've seen that most of the schools were mostly static in their approach. So accordingly to the time now that we are changing, and then we would want to be dynamic. So I'm sure all the edtech companies who are coming with solutions, and their um, new apps to collaborate also will definitely help the school. But sometimes it becomes overwhelming to see, the 10 of these edutech companies coming to the schools and saying, we can do our best. So it is better to evaluate whether, whether these are the things that we need for our institution to be able to give the best. And it also need, it should be based on the need, not because of anything other than that. Because it becomes overburden on the teachers otherwise, the amount of technology that we are already imposing them to use in the classrooms, and also to adapt to all these new technologies that they'll have to follow. Let it be artificial intelligence, let it be any of those new technologies that we are introducing. So first I feel like we need to have clarity. Two, we need to upskill our teachers and upskill our admin staff to be able to meet that requirement. So that way we will be able to work more efficiently, and then there is a proper outcome of this collaborations. Because ultimately we all wanted to give the best to our students, right? So definitely we wanted to understand what is the need, and how do we facilitate this. And yeah, there is no better way than collaborating with private and public sectors on this front. But then we need to have a common platform where everybody comes in and agrees on, this is something that we wanted to do together, and these are the areas that will have a proper outcome on that particular front. So this is something that I feel, I'm sorry, I was lost for some time in the middle, and then I feel this is something that I would like to add to the conversation.
Thank you so very much. Whatever you have said, just to add in that, collaboration is the need of the hour. At the same time, we also have to develop a habit that yes, we want to share our knowledge with each other. Because still there, we can see there is a reluctancy somewhere in the mind of people that, oh, let me be the superior. So that we have to give away, and we have to come and join hand with each other, and we can do wonders. We still have around 20 minutes. So you all have set the tempo. It's going pretty well. Let us start with our second round of questions. And my first question, again in the second round, goes to Mr. Gandhi. I think it's implied clear from this discussion, whatever we had till now, that the future of education is being driven by digital technologies. We are here to live in digital era. So to implement any technology, a robust infrastructure is required. This in turn requires a significant amount of investment. It is well known fact that aside from a few pockets in metropolitan areas, much of the country does not have access to even basic digital technologies. That was highlighted already by our other two panelists, that we don't have even electricity, forget everything else. So what role could government and edtech companies play to address the issue of lack of infrastructure in rural areas of the country? Is there anything schools and educational institutions do to remedy this issue? Mr. Gandhi, please.
this partly, this is in some ways more of a policy question than a education question. It even comes down to a bit of political philosophy as to what extent should the government be involved in such things. So my 2 cents worth is that I personally leaned towards the belief that actually it's pretty inefficient to try to rely on the government. It's unlikely that we can expect the government to meaningfully sort this thing out, and I don't know if they'll be able to get the budget for it. I mean, for years, since 1962, there's been this promise in the ether of 6% of GDP being spent on education. That's never been achieved. So I don't know where they'll suddenly get the money for education technology to be rolled out. And even if they can get the funding, the operational issues of rolling out such a thing in every rural area to millions of schools, it's just and millions of homes, it seems completely impractical. What is much more likely, what we're already seeing, what's already happening, is that the private sector is moving towards making cheaper and cheaper devices, making reliable internet available more cheaply. Things like, not that I want to endorse any particular company, but the kind of technological access that is there from Geo and all that's really improving. We're seeing brand new methods of internet already being launched. For example, Elon Musk has launched satellite arrays. A lot of access is already getting to the internet through these satellites in certain developing areas. Sub-Saharan Africa is using it, so it's a matter of time before it comes to India. So I think the progress of technology is very much in the direction of making it more and more affordable. There's prototypes of phones, smartphones, which are in good working condition for 3,000-4,000 rupees, so it becomes affordable to the masses. Right now, the cheapest of the smartphones is maybe 9,000-10,000 rupees, so it's still quite an investment at the rural level. But when it comes to 3,000-4,000 rupees, it'll be a viable investment. People will be able to do that. So I have high hopes in the power of the free market to enable all of this to be possible in the long run, and let us not try to rely on the government to do that. What the government should do is, high-level policy making. It should create a set of conditions in which it's easy for these companies to flourish. It should not be placing too many hard regulations on companies who are trying to manufacture these products. It should create general policy frameworks about, for example, cyber safety, or how tools should be utilized, or how schools should adopt certain tools. But it should not be trying to micromanage a rollout of technological platforms to schools en masse.
All right. Mr. Gandhi, no doubt that we can't expect everything from the government. At least after more than 3 decades, we have got a new education policy, and that shows that yes, government is willing to look forward, move forward with us. And yes, very well said that private sector have to play a major role over here. So
may I just
my
add a
next,
line, if you don't mind, to
yes,
what
please.
Mr. Gandhi said? I think he was so right when he said that, it's a matter of policy. And if you're expecting the government to do everything, it doesn't really help it, in all situations. I'm totally with it. However, with the same breath, I would say that, we have to make a start somewhere. So like they say that every drop counts, I said every single government school counts. So, in areas where you feel that there is electricity or there is internet, identifying what are the lapses. So let's assume that both these are available, and that's what we did, but they did not have the gadgets. And like he also said, the cost of the gadget, even if we were to do it at a personal level, is, very expensive. So when we're talking to children about, recycle, reuse and things like that, many of them pick up the latest brands, and then each of us would probably have at least a phone, if not one more lying at home that none of us are using. So donating these during the pandemic actually gave life to a lot of children because their education didn't stop. So I do believe that, where there's a will, there's a way. You can always connect with companies because 2% they would spend on CSR. It's the networking that the children need to learn. They need to go and ask for this, even if they're sending mailers. And can you imagine the pride when they actually get this whole project going, and then they collect these forms? And even if you can't do it for the whole government school, at least do it for the board going batch. I think we have to simplify the problem and try to assimilate what we can do and then start executing. So when we talk of problem solving, we have to give children not something, in an MCQ that CBSE thinks that that is where we need to check their intelligence. But I think we have to put it to practice on a daily basis. When these, problems of magnitude are there, then we're also creating in the child as a school that the confidence that, I can be the solution provider, however small my effort is. So, I think this is something that all of us, can think about and take it forward. What if there are only 30 children in 10th grade? We're able to give only, let's say, 7 or 8 cell phones. They will very happily share and learn. Instead of having none, I'm sure the progress of how to actually utilize these gadgets, they will decipher, and, the country will move forward. Thank you so much.
Very well said that there has to be the partnership. We alone can't do each and everything, and we can't even rely completely on the government. So we have to have a partnership, and as a private sector, we have to play a very, very vital role. My next question was again for you, Dr. Reddy. For any technological tool to have a positive impact on the teaching learning process, it has to be implemented effectively in the classroom. And this obviously demands that our teachers be competent, not just in methods of pedagogy, but also in using novel and advanced digital tools. This would require significant retraining and upskilling. How many we ensure that, how we can ensure that the teachers upskilling and training are prioritized in order to support the development of flexible and enhanced teaching approaches using these technologies?
Okay. So I think, we are striking reality as best as we can here. And I do believe that, when you look at, what most schools have done, I think the first thing is, when we began way back, let's say, more than a decade, when people were not very well versed, in the use of technology itself, there were many, companies that came forward to ensure that teachers get trained. So first things first, I think the fear of use of technology must be broken. And, teachers must become comfortable with the use because they are not digital natives. And we do realize that it's the students who are probably, running the class because they can actually handle technology in class way better than the teacher can. So bringing in that comfort to a teacher and also letting them know that in case there's a little support system and there's a kid who can do something for you, we can always learn from them. It's not the end of the world. Okay. And I think no matter what the schools or the managements will invest in to train the teachers, unless there is some kind of a monitoring systems to see how effectively it's being used in the class, whether it is content, whether it is the assessment or the evaluation that we're doing digitally, and then see, are we overburdening them or have we actually lightened their task? Is there a value, that we have created by the use of technology? I do believe that, instead of just enforcing that, okay, we are also a tech-enabled school and, we have this or that, effectively, if we cross our hearts and see, has it made a difference to the children? I think that's the starting point. So I think, when it comes to teaching, learning, there are multiple ways in which you can do it. But again, I repeat that, analyzing outcomes and then doing remediation and going forward is what, will actually be beneficial. However, for schools that cannot afford, now let's assume that some schools can afford and some can't. The beauty is that we have adequate open source material. So it's not necessarily that you have to convince your parent that, we have linked up with this particular, company or this brand to deliver the content for us. Teachers should become content creators. We need not invent the wheel because there is a lot available on the net through open source. So start using that. If your management has not invested in something, you can still have digitalized content in the class going for children, and then take it from there. Now, when you see, how you're going to balance it out, I think the beauty of the entire hybrid system that we are talking of, the effectiveness, lies in the right balance. Technology should be used, but not overused. The moment we start doing that, I think fatigue sets in. And if you see even these kids who are, we term as digital natives, if when you had online, after a point, they were getting frustrated just sitting in front of, the screen all the time. The concentration was going, the attention span was decreasing. So schools have to quickly devise, some activities in between where you're off the screen and you do something, you come back and then share it with the class. And even online, when you miss having that connect with your collaborating with your peers and things like that, they were always breakout sessions that they could get into, have a little discussion, and then come and present their learnings. So these things were going on pretty effectively. So the bottom line is, let's use technology because we can't do away with it. This is the digital era. We cannot shy away from it, but let us also not get bogged down to just say that we have this and that when we feel that the learning outcome is inadequate. So the wise role of the management and the principal lies in choosing effectively and choosing something that is required and for no other purpose. So somewhere I feel what we need is important, not what we want. Just to show to an outside world, we don't require that. We don't need to waste money. We'd rather do some charity. So I think the basis of our judgment should be learning outcomes of students.
I agree that we have to have a balance and make teachers feel that they are valued, they are important. They don't feel anywhere that they don't know something, so the training is a must. They should be the training should be given on a regular basis. But at the same time, what you said, I agree that it should not be overburdened. The teacher should feel that yes, I am doing whatever best I can, and that is the role of the authorities who are managing the institute. My next question goes to Miss Meghna. Any kind of change in the method of working requires not just technical know-how, but also a shift and commensurate shift in the cultural beliefs, mindset, and ethos. As leaders in education, what kind of views should we promote that would make all of the stakeholders, including teachers, parents, and students, willing to adopt new technologies? What tools can we use to promote such views and mindset? Ms. Meghna, please.
Meghna, you're muted.
Sorry. So I feel like, to have this collaboration, we need to set the expectations right for all the stakeholders. Because previously, before the digital era, it was conceived that teacher knows it all, right? But now, here children are teaching their teachers, how to use certain apps or how to use certain extensions in a given platform. So the mindset definitely, have to shift, change to that learning environment for a teacher here, so that they can adapt to it. And um, previously the parents were like, my children don't know anything, so I'm sending them to school. This was the mindset of the parent. And then the parent thinks that, the teacher knows it all, and they think that the teacher has a magic wand where they'll try and create the child into a perfect being to face the future tomorrow. So, but it has to happen only on collaboration at both ends, at the school level and at the house level. So trying to set the expectations right at both levels is very important to start with. So Yes, and then coming to technology and adaptation of technology, I'm sure a lot of parents also have limitations in adapting to these technologies. So there are messages which are sent, and there are platforms that the schools are using. Maybe the parent is not aware, like, how to check. Orientations on these definitely would help the parents, and some hand holding from the school side to the parent is also required at times, because as grown-ups they somehow feel very uncomfortable reaching out to school saying that, I don't know how to use your platform to understand what is happening in the school. So rather, we try and create a platform for them, saying that, we are here to help, because it's new, and it's new to us as well. We learned and we want you to learn. So this is a mindset that we have to create. This is the culture that we have to create, that, we are trying to handhold each other in the process for the betterment of the child, right? So expectations is something that we have to set right from the beginning, and it's new for everyone. So let us not try be judgmental on anything, and try and give equal importance to the views of children and what they need and how do they need it. So that way, whatever we are trying to do, or bring in new technologies to help students out with the help of our teachers, will also be more outcome oriented than just imposing, as rightly Dr. Usha Reddy mentioned. So it is important that we need to create collaborations. We need to have set amount of expectations from each other and be vocal about it. This is what we expect. And definitely the culture only comes in when everybody join hands and, put in their efforts together and learn in the process. So that is when a culture is created. So as rightly said, that, we don't have to invest in everything, uh, where we can use open sources. But I would, as I don't know, maybe I might be a rebel, I would say that government has to take a strong stand in helping their own schools to start with, because we do not question. There is no questioning system which is happening, and all these schools run on the taxes that we pay from our pockets, but we do not take that responsibility of questioning what is happening at your school. Where did all the funds go that is allocated, or did you receive the funds or not? Because ultimately, when as a private school, when we are trying to do something, the burden is coming onto the private school, asking them to, help the government school, in spite of them having a certain amount of budget. Maybe the budget is not at a level, but they do have a budget. And then they have all these, because these are certain things which, as a school, doing all these collaborations, trying to create a culture. Yes, we would love to help, but what is it coming back from the government to the private sector is also very important. Do we get relaxations on our taxes if we help a government school? Do we get relaxations on the bills that we pay at a higher price? So these are certain things that we as school leaders have to question before we reach out and help others. It's the same human being, and they're highly qualified, whoever are joining the government forces as well, to help people out, or to help children out. Why is that only we have to be responsible and not them? It's because the questioning system is missing out. And I strongly believe, yes, we have to collaborate, we have to help each other out. But the help is only one way, is where it actually, is not very encouraging towards the private sector. See, we try and do things, but what is that we are getting back is also equally important. And as education leaders in the private sector, we have to question this as well. And government always set the basic standards, they never set the higher standards. We as schools only were meeting the basic standards, and we never explored the higher standard possible for our school to be able to be there. Nobody actually stopped us using technology before pandemic, but how many of us took that opportunity? Now that, because we can't do away with it, so we are taking a stand saying that, oh yes, we have to do it. But similarly, in the future, not only digital is the answer for it. There are so many levels, like, there's learning gaps in social emotional level. There are learning gaps at the teacher's friend, learning gaps at the parents level. So we have to address all these things, and maybe create a culture where everybody are giving in their inputs, and process them, and understand how it is going to help all the stakeholders at large, and keeping the child's learning as a priority. Sorry for, like, moving away from the
No,
topic, but
no,
I
no,
really
no,
wanted to
no, sorry.
mention that.
Well said. Well said, Miss Meghna. Your points are well noted, and I believe each and every panelist has put up wonderful ideas, views, and this session, if I can take that liberty, has been a wonderful session where the different ideas have come all together. Uh, I wish to thank Mr. Roshan, Dr. Usha, and Miss Meghna, all three of you, and no doubt, Elets Technomedia, because you are the one who have given us this platform. Before putting it, saying goodbye, let us close with a concluding remark here that COVID-19 pandemic has caused a massive disruption in the countries, and education system was also a part of it. However, it also has ushered in a digital revolution in education that could potentially enrich teaching learning experience. It could also help us address some of the long standing, seemingly intractable problems in our education system. However, as it always happens, novel solutions brings with them novel questions and challenges. The major question and challenges that arise here pertain to adequate teacher training, security, disparity in access to device and the internet, and the lack of digital infrastructure for education in the country. These challenges cannot be resolved by one size fits all type of solutions. So you have given different solutions. Instead, we must start locally by adopting new technologies and method in our own practice and institutions. It also crucial to share our experiences in learning and to collaborate to find best possible solutions to the unique challenges we face. Over time, such collaboration and cooperation will result in organic revolution of a viable digital infrastructure tailored to meet the unique needs of our students and institutions. Such collaboration will also ensure that major stakeholders, students, teachers, and parents get time and proper environment to adopt new ways of teaching and learning. I would like to close this session by reiterating that we are witnessing here a remarkable revolution in education that is poised to change the way we interact, learn, and teach. We have achieved remarkable feats in the previous 2 years by adopting new modes of teaching in a very short time amid a severe crisis. This has shed light on the latent potential that exists in the teachers' community. We need to find ways to nurture this potential and to put it to the best use. I wish you all the very best, and I hand over the stage back to Team Elite.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And that was wonderful, Dr. Pathak. You've been a wonderful moderator. In fact, it has been such a delight to hear everyone. In fact, thank you so much to all our panelists. And thank you so much again, Chandrakanta, ma'am. And we would now present a small, token of appreciation certificates to all our speakers here today. So, can we have the certificates? This is for Dr. Chandrakanta R. Pathak for being a wonderful
Thank you.
moderator. Thank you so much, ma'am. A certificate for Mr. Roshan Gandhi for being a very active participant in the panel. Thank you so much, sir, for being here. A certificate for Dr. Usha Reddy for being a part of this event and for being a part of this panel and for sharing her views on the topic today. And a speaker certificate for Ms. Meghana Musunuri for being a part of this event and for sharing such valuable thoughts with us and for sparing some time. Thank you so much, everyone. It has been wonderful hearing all of you. And I would like to request, in fact, all the participants, if you can visit the stalls also. We have some stalls by our sponsors, which would be very, insightful and informational for you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Sure.
so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you,
Thank you. It
Elets,
was
for
a
giving this
pleasure
opportunity.
interacting with each one of you. May God bless
Same here,
you.
ma'am. Same here, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.